When it comes to growing food, few communities know the land like the Amish. Without electricity, synthetic fertilizers, or modern machinery, they've developed incredibly effective ways to cultivate high-yield, low-maintenance gardens. These aren't just outdated traditions. Many of their methods quietly outperform modern techniques. In this video, we're diving into one of their most underrated yet powerful gardening hacks. It's something so simple, so practical, and so efficient that once you learn about it, you'll wonder why no one else is doing it. This isn't about theory, it's about real results from people who grow their own food year-round, completely off the grid. Number 1, trash that feeds your garden. The Amish have a very practical approach to gardening, and one of the most overlooked yet effective techniques they use involves rethinking what most people would call kitchen trash. Rather than throwing out leftover cooking materials, they turn them into direct sources of nutrition for their soil and plants. For example, when they boil eggs, potatoes, or vegetables, the water left in the pot isn't wasted. That water holds minerals like potassium, magnesium, and calcium that leach out during cooking. Instead of pouring it down the drain, they let it cool and use it to water plants, especially during the early stages of growth, when those nutrients can help strengthen roots and boost early development. This practice avoids unnecessary waste and provides a completely free supplement to support healthy plant growth. Another example is how they deal with eggshells. After using the eggs, the shells are dried, crushed, and then either sprinkled around plants or mixed into compost. Eggshells are rich in calcium carbonate, which helps prevent blossom end rot in tomatoes, peppers, and other fruiting vegetables. The shells also slowly break down in the soil, providing a long-term calcium source. On top of that, crushed shells can act as a physical deterrent to pests like slugs and snails, which won't crawl over sharp edges. Used coffee grounds are also a common feature in Amish gardening, especially for crops that prefer more acidic conditions. Instead of throwing the grounds away, they scatter them around plants like blueberries, tomatoes, and azaleas. Coffee grounds add nitrogen to the soil, which supports leafy growth and encourages beneficial microbial activity. Some Amish gardeners even mix the grounds with compost to balance out the material's acidity and blend it more easily into their soil mix. Banana peels are another kitchen scrap that doesn't go to waste. They're chopped into small pieces and buried directly into the soil near the roots of flowering plants like roses. As the peel decomposes, it releases potassium, phosphorus, and a small amount of nitrogen, nutrients that help support blooms and strong root systems. Some gardeners will even soak banana peels in water for a few days to create a mild nutrient tea, which is then used as a liquid fertilizer. These methods are not just clever, they reflect a deeper philosophy. The Amish aim to build a self-sustaining, closed-loop system where very little is thrown away and everything has a second use. This means fewer trips to the store, less dependence on commercial fertilizers, and a garden that gets healthier each year. It's an approach grounded in observation, tradition, and a respect for the natural cycle of growth and decay. Instead of relying on synthetic products, they simply make use of what's already available, turning everyday scraps into valuable tools for better harvests. Number 2, the weed-free trick no one talks about. One of the most practical and overlooked techniques used in Amish gardening is their approach to weed control. Unlike modern gardening that often relies on synthetic herbicides or frequent tilling, the Amish use a low-effort, high-reward system that keeps their garden beds remarkably clean. It starts before any planting is even done. Large sheets of black plastic, old tarps, or even worn-out feed bags are laid over the soil where crops are going to grow. This material blocks sunlight from reaching the ground, which prevents weed seeds from germinating. Since weeds rely on sunlight to grow, cutting off that supply at the root level is a simple yet extremely effective way to avoid the constant need to weed by hand. Once the plastic or cover material is secured, holes are carefully cut only where the intended crops will be planted. This method allows the vegetables or fruits to grow without competition from weeds, while also creating a controlled microclimate around each plant. The soil under the plastic remains warmer than exposed soil, which can lead to faster growth, particularly in the cooler early months of the season. Additionally, the covering helps retain soil moisture by reducing evaporation. This can be a major benefit during hot or dry periods, as the garden will require less frequent watering, and the plants are less likely to suffer from heat stress or dry conditions. Not all Amish gardeners use plastic, though. Many prefer more natural alternatives like thick layers of straw, hay, or grass clippings. Burlap sacks, especially those that have already been used for grain or coffee storage, are another favorite material. These organic mulches eventually break down and contribute to soil fertility, while still suppressing weed growth. This natural decomposition enriches the soil without any additional input, which is completely in line with the Amish principle of recycling and sustainability. In larger gardens, some Amish even rotate between plastic mulch and natural coverings depending on the type of crop and the time of year. For instance, plastic might be used for tomatoes and peppers early in the season to maximize heat, while squash or beans might be grown using straw mulch to keep the ground cooler and improve water retention. This kind of thoughtful material use also reduces the labor associated with weeding, which is especially helpful in a lifestyle where every task is done manually. Overall, this technique is not just about aesthetics. Weed suppression through ground cover materials protects soil structure, reduces erosion from wind and rain, and minimizes the disturbance to beneficial soil organisms. Without frequent digging or hoeing, the microbial life in the soil remains stable and active, which contributes to long-term soil health. It's a simple method, but its efficiency and sustainability make it a standout feature of traditional Amish gardening that modern gardeners could easily adopt with great results. Number 3. Seed. Starting the Amish way. In Amish communities, where simplicity and sustainability are deeply rooted values, starting seeds is not just about getting plants ready for the garden. It's a system that reflects a deeper understanding of resourcefulness and environmental awareness. Unlike modern gardening trends that rely heavily on mass-produced plastic trays and grow lights, the Amish tend to avoid synthetic materials altogether, turning instead to everyday household items that would otherwise go to waste. One of the most clever and environmentally friendly methods they use involves turning food scraps and paper waste into seed starting containers. For instance, rather than purchasing plastic seed trays from a garden center, many Amish families repurpose old egg cartons, cardboard toilet paper rolls, or even citrus peels, such as lemon or orange halves. The process with citrus peels is particularly interesting. After the fruit has been used, the peel is halved, cleaned out, and filled with a modest amount of potting soil. A seed is planted directly into the soil within the peel, which acts as a natural, biodegradable container. Once the seedling is strong enough to be transplanted, the entire peel is placed directly into the garden soil. As it breaks down, the peel enriches the earth with organic matter and nutrients, providing a small boost to the plant during its early stages of growth. It's a method that requires no added materials, creates no waste, and adds value back into the soil. A closed-loop system that's incredibly efficient. Similar methods are applied using paper-based materials. Cardboard toilet rolls are cut in half and filled with soil to serve as individual seed pots. Newspaper is folded into small cylinders, secured without tape or glue, and used in the same way. These options decompose naturally and can be planted straight into the ground, eliminating the need to disturb the young root systems during transplanting, which is a common issue with plastic trays. In doing so, the Amish ensure healthier, less stressed seedlings and better growth performance after planting. Aside from starting seeds, Amish gardeners are also very careful about how they store them from year to year. Seed saving is not just a habit, it's a practice that carries economic, environmental, and cultural importance. Instead of using store-bought containers or resealable bags, which can sometimes trap moisture and lead to mold or rot, the Amish often use simple glass mason jars. To maintain dryness, which is crucial for the long-term seed viability, they add a small amount of uncooked rice into the jar. The rice acts as a natural desiccant, absorbing ambient moisture and keeping the seeds dry and safe until the next planting season. It's a low-cost method that relies on materials most households already have on hand. This entire approach, from starting seeds in waste-derived containers to storing them in natural low-tech conditions, reflects the broader Amish philosophy toward gardening. Avoid waste, work with what's available, and prioritize sustainability over convenience. They rely heavily on passed-down knowledge, observing how plants respond to soil, moisture, and temperature rather than depending on manufactured solutions. Every step is intentional, not rushed, and rooted in a long-term relationship with the land. What's impressive isn't just the creativity of these techniques, but how effective they are in comparison to many modern tools. Seedlings started in biodegradable containers often perform better in the long run because their roots aren't shocked during transplanting. The materials used are either free or already destined for the trash, making the process both economical and environmentally sound. And when it comes to storage, their glass and rice method is hard to beat for simplicity and effectiveness. In essence, Amish seed starting is a practical, proven system that combines traditional wisdom with low-impact methods. It's a perfect example of how efficiency and sustainability can come together without relying on high-tech solutions or consumer goods. Number 4. Amish pest control that smells amazing. The Amish approach to pest control is rooted in long-standing tradition, practicality, and a deep understanding of how plants interact with their environment. Rather than relying on chemical pesticides, they focus on preventative strategies and natural deterrents that are safe, effective, and often based on scent. This method not only keeps their crops healthy and chemical-free, but also contributes to a more balanced ecosystem in the garden. One of the most consistent techniques they use is strategic companion planting, where certain herbs and flowers are placed alongside vegetables, not just to save space, but to serve very specific protective functions. For instance, marigolds are a staple in Amish gardens, typically planted along the borders of vegetable plots. Marigolds release compounds from their roots and flowers that help repel nematodes, small soil-borne pests that attack plant roots. Their distinct smell also discourages aphids and even some beetles, making them a low-maintenance, multi-purpose companion plant. Basil is another commonly used herb, especially when grown near tomatoes. Besides enhancing flavor when the two are harvested together, basil emits a strong aroma that helps deter common flying insects like whiteflies and mosquitoes, which can otherwise transmit diseases between plants. The pairing of basil and tomato isn't accidental. It's a well-thought-out match based on both pest control and growth compatibility. Lavender is used in Amish gardens not just for its calming scent, but because it serves a functional role in keeping moths and fleas away from leafy crops like cabbage and broccoli. The smell of lavender is pleasant for humans but disruptive to insects, particularly those that lay eggs on leaves and cause infestations during the larval stage. When placed near vulnerable plants, lavender can drastically reduce the need for any intervention later in the season. Garlic is another powerhouse in their pest control system. When planted near roses or lettuce, it helps repel aphids, which are among the most destructive garden pests. Aphids multiply quickly, drain sap from plants, and can ruin a garden if left unchecked. The pungent sulfur compounds in garlic deter these insects from landing and feeding, essentially building a natural barrier around the host plant. Garlic's benefits extend below ground as well, where it may deter harmful fungi and bacteria in the soil. In cases where companion planting isn't enough, some Amish families turn to simple homemade sprays that have been passed down for generations. One common recipe involves crushing fresh garlic and mixing it with chili powder, or fresh chili peppers in water, then adding a small amount of natural dish soap. The solution is left to steep for a few hours or overnight, strained and sprayed directly onto plant leaves. The garlic and chili create a spicy-smelling film that repels a wide variety of soft-bodied insects like caterpillars, spider mites, and whiteflies. The soap helps the solution adhere to leaves and also breaks down insect exoskeletons over time. It's an effective, affordable method that can be made with household ingredients and doesn't harm the plant or surrounding soil. Another pest control strategy includes attracting beneficial insects. Amish gardeners know that not all bugs are bad. For instance, ladybugs and lacewings are welcomed in their gardens because they feed on aphids and other soft-bodied pests. By planting dill, fennel, and yarrow, herbs known to attract these helpful predators, they naturally maintain the balance without needing to intervene with traps or sprays. This whole system creates a self-sustaining loop. The use of strong-smelling plants not only prevents infestations, but also maintains biodiversity in the garden, encourages pollination, and keeps the soil healthy. There's no need to sterilize the land with pesticides or risk human exposure to chemicals. Everything they use serves more than one purpose, from flavor to protection, creating a resilient garden environment that stays productive with minimal disruption. Number 5, companion planting with serious strategy. In Amish gardening, companion planting is not just a nice idea or an occasional technique. It's a fundamental principle built into every stage of the growing process. The placement of each crop is based on generations of experience and observation, not guesswork. Plants are not viewed in isolation, but as part of a living system where every crop can influence the success or failure of those growing nearby. This method reduces pest issues, boosts yields, and improves the overall health of the garden without relying on synthetic inputs. It's not about trend following or aesthetics. It's a practical approach developed through necessity, and it's been quietly refined over time by people who depend on their gardens to feed large families year-round. One of the most well-known examples of this system is the Three Sisters method: corn, beans, and squash, which the Amish continue to use to this day. In this setup, corn is planted first and serves as a natural trellis for climbing beans. The beans, in turn, fix nitrogen into the soil, making it available for the other crops and improving soil fertility without the need for commercial fertilizers. Finally, squash is planted around the base, where its broad, low-growing leaves act as a living mulch, suppressing weeds and helping retain soil moisture. This trio not only grows well together, but also represents a balance of nutrients and physical structure, reducing the need for outside inputs while maximizing the use of space. But Amish gardeners don't just stick to ancient traditions. They've expanded and adapted companion planting techniques to suit a wide variety of crops. For instance, they commonly pair tomatoes with basil, not just because the two taste great together on the plate, but because basil helps to repel common tomato pests like hornworms and whiteflies. Marigolds are planted throughout vegetable beds, not only to add some visual interest, but because they're known to deter nematodes and other root pests. Similarly, planting garlic or chives near roses helps prevent aphid infestations, and mixing in aromatic herbs like dill and mint can disrupt the scent tracking of insect pests, making it harder for them to find their preferred host plants. Strategic avoidance is just as important. Some plants are known to inhibit each other's growth or compete aggressively for nutrients. The Amish avoid planting onions and beans near each other because onions can slow down the development of beans. Likewise, potatoes are not planted near tomatoes because they're both in the nightshade family and are susceptible to the same blights and pests, which can spread more easily if the crops are too close together. By avoiding these problem combinations, Amish gardeners reduce the chance of disease outbreaks and nutrient deficiencies. There's also a spatial logic at work. Amish gardens are often laid out in rows or plots where plants can provide each other with physical benefits, like shade or wind protection. For example, tall crops like sunflowers or corn can provide shelter to more delicate plants that don't tolerate strong sun or wind. Leafy greens that prefer cooler conditions can be grown in the partial shade of taller plants, extending their growing season. Root vegetables like carrots are often placed near onions or leeks, as their respective scents are believed to confuse or deter certain insects that feed on either crop. Beyond pest control and yield improvement, companion planting helps maintain soil health. Rather than planting a large patch of a single crop, which can quickly deplete the soil and attract pests, mixed planting ensures that different nutrients are used and replaced more evenly. Deep-rooted plants like parsnips or daikon radish can even help break up compacted soil, improving conditions for shallow-rooted neighbors. The result is a more self-sustaining system that requires less watering, less weeding, and almost no chemical interference. Amish companion planting strategies are a mix of common sense, careful observation, and passed down knowledge. They don't rely on apps, spreadsheets, or garden planners, but they understand deeply how plants interact over time. It's a quiet, methodical practice that might not look dramatic, but the results are undeniable. Healthier plants, fewer pests, and a more resilient garden system that doesn't need fixing every year. Number 6. Cold frames that stretch the seasons. Among the most practical yet often overlooked gardening techniques used by the Amish is the implementation of cold frames. A cold frame is essentially a bottomless box with a transparent lid, usually made from glass or clear plastic, and it functions much like a miniature greenhouse. The primary purpose is to capture solar energy during the day and retain that warmth through the colder night hours, creating a more favorable microclimate for young plants and cold-sensitive crops. The Amish construct these frames from simple, readily available materials, often reclaimed wood, old windows, or leftover greenhouse plastic, and place them directly over garden beds or even on raised platforms depending on the crop and weather conditions. The setup is unassuming but highly effective and doesn't rely on any electricity or external power source. In the early spring months, when frost is still a threat and soil temperatures are not yet ideal for germination, cold frames allow the Amish to begin seed starting weeks ahead of the normal planting schedule. By trapping heat and buffering against nighttime temperature drops, the cold frame mimics the warming effect of a greenhouse but on a smaller and more manageable scale. This early start gives crops like cabbage, onions, kale, and broccoli a head start and extends the harvest season significantly. When used properly, the soil inside the frame remains workable and above freezing, which means seeds germinate more reliably and seedlings develop stronger root systems before being transplanted into open beds. The versatility of cold frames doesn't stop with spring planting. As the growing season winds down in late summer and early fall, the Amish continue to use these structures to protect late crops like spinach, radishes, arugula, and lettuce from early frosts. This extends their growing season by several weeks, sometimes even months depending on the climate. These leafy greens, which can tolerate cooler temperatures to begin with, thrive under the cold frame's insulated environment. The passive solar heating provided by these simple boxes helps to maintain a stable temperature, preventing frost damage and reducing the risk of sudden cold snaps, wiping out entire rows of vegetables. In colder areas, extra insulation is added around the frame to further improve heat retention. Some gardeners pack straw bales along the outer edges or cover the lid at night with old quilts or burlap sacks. During the day, the lid is usually propped open slightly to allow for airflow and prevent overheating on sunny days. Even in winter, temperatures inside can spike if ventilation is ignored. Amish gardeners are careful to monitor moisture levels as well, since condensation can build up quickly inside a sealed cold frame. Proper drainage and controlled ventilation are key to preventing mold or damping off diseases in young seedlings. Another benefit of cold frames is their role in hardening off transplants. Rather than moving tender, indoor-grown seedlings directly into the garden, which can shock the plants due to sudden exposure to wind, sun, and temperature shifts, Amish gardeners use cold frames as an intermediate step. Seedlings are placed inside the frame for a week or two, gradually adapting to outdoor conditions in a protected space. This makes for stronger, more resilient plants that are better equipped to handle the stress of being planted directly into the soil. The beauty of this technique lies in its simplicity. Cold frames don't require constant attention, specialized materials, or technical knowledge. Once built, they last for years and can be used season after season with minimal maintenance. For Amish families who value efficiency, sustainability, and hands-on methods, cold frames align perfectly with their off-grid lifestyle. They allow for greater food independence, more predictable harvests, and better use of time during the transition periods between seasons. It's a modest technique with big benefits, making it one of the smartest tools in their gardening toolkit.